What's up guys, it's Endymion, and today it's time for the second game in BioWare's epic fantasy RPG series, Dragon Age. In this video, I'll cover interesting facts and find Easter eggs you may or may not know about the series, and without further ado, let's begin the Dragon Age 2 Iceberg Explained. Unlike Origins, Dragon Age 2 forces players into the shoes of the human character Hawke. A surprising amount of people didn't like this because the previous game allowed you to choose from various races, but Hawke was BioWare's sort of answer to giving the Dragon Age series their own Commander Shepard-like character. Did you like Hawke as a character? Let me know in the comments. The game takes place over the span of 10 years within the city of Kirkwall and its surroundings. But unfortunately, although the story spans over a decade, the city of Kirkwall itself doesn't change visually to depict this passage of time. This was always my biggest disappointment with this game at release personally, and as you'll see with each fact, that wasn't all that BioWare had to cut corners with, unfortunately. Dragon Age 2 was originally meant to get an expansion called EXALTED March, and it was designed to set up the next game in the series, Dragon Age Inquisition, but this idea was ultimately scrapped. Speaking on that cancelled EXALTED March DLC, did you know it was originally planned by BioWare to have fan-favorite character VARRIC die at the end of that expansion? But since things were changed, VARRIC survived, so maybe it was for the best in the end. This one's cool. Hawke's mother, Leandra's maiden name is Amel, which fans picked up on, realizing that Amel was the default surname of the Mage Warden Origin in Dragon Age Origins. BioWare actually didn't realize that they inadvertently made Hawke related to the Grey Warden hero in Origins, if they chose the Mage Origin of course, but BioWare said screw it and they made it canon, so if you played Mage Warden in Origins, Hawke is your cousin. Surprise! Dragon Age 2 had an extremely fast development cycle, especially when you compare it to Origins. See, Origins had 18 months of pre-production followed by 5 years of actual game development, whereas Dragon Age 2 was made from start to finish in just 18 months, which is quite literally insane. I've had relationships longer than Dragon Age 2's development, but I haven't had a relationship longer than Origins development. Anyway, moving on. The game was pushed into its hellish development cycle because Star Wars The Old Republic was going to miss its release date and EA wanted something to fulfill its quarterly earnings. Oh, classic EA, always working people into dust. Please stop doing that. Did you know that Dragon Age 2 was originally going to be a Gaiden game? Gaiden means another story in Japanese. Basically, Dragon Age 2 was meant to be smaller in scale on purpose and not be about saving the world. Also, the original title of the game was Dragon Age Exodus, which sounds way cooler too. In the original version of the game story as well, Hawke was supposed to be a werewolf who was addicted to a concept called licking the blade. Basically, it's a trope in anime you've probably seen before where a crazy character enjoys licking their blades or claws to taste the blood of their victims after causing a fresh wound. So that streak of blood across Hawke's face was meant to be just that, Hawke marking themselves with their blood frenzy. Another really cool idea, which was unfortunately changed. Fenris was actually the most challenging companion to create as his design kept being remixed and rejected, which led to BioWare's various concept artists, including artist Matt Rhodes, whose art you're seeing right now, creating various wildly different looks until they finally decided on something they all liked. Thankfully, the runic tattoo idea was kept cause it's badass. Speaking about companions, Meryl was originally meant to be more demonic and scary looking, with her use of blood magic meant to emphasize the darker side of her character. Of course, BioWare went back and forth like they did with Fenris until even Meryl ended up looking much more different than she did originally. This is interesting, but Hawke was originally planned to be the hero in Dragon Age Inquisition, and the duel with the Qunari Arishok in hindsight was meant to be at the end of Act 3 but was redesigned so it fit into Act 2 instead. Speaking on Hawke being the main character of Inquisition, this was ultimately changed due to the lower than expected sales of Dragon Age 2 overall. No doubt due to the insanely fast development time and push from EA, it led to Dragon Age 2 being less than it could have been, unfortunately. Hawk does show up in Inquisition, just not as the main character, of course. There was originally going to be a whole story that takes place within the mind of Hawk on the brink of being possessed, as stated by lead writer David Gator, who splurged a bunch of what-if details over on his Twitter page back in 2021. He also wished the game took place over months instead of years to make the city more believable, which, yes, I totally agree. There was also going to be an added scene at the end of the game where if players met the requirements, once Varric leaves Cassandra's questioning, you could actually romance Varric and live happily ever after, but again, like everything else on this list, time was not on BioWare's side. Some may have complained that Dragon Age 2 went against the more traditional turn-based natures of Origins in favor of action. But in reality, this was changed because many fans voiced their opinions and told BioWare they wanted faster gameplay. So really, the Dragon Age series going more action-oriented is, well, kind of our own fault. I'm okay with it because I prefer action, but just letting you know. Originally, each act was meant to feature your Hawk becoming insanely overpowered when facing each act's final boss, as a way of Varric over-exaggerating the feats of Hawk and their companions. This would then be downplayed by Cassandra, and the player would return to being normal again. Thankfully, this was cut because being put into God mode for every boss would have been kind of underwhelming, and it would have undermined the game's RPG and customization elements entirely. Dragon Age 2's overall structure was retconned and altered due to the game releasing simultaneously on PC and consoles. Origins originally came to only PC, but it was later ported to consoles, which lead designer Mike Laidlaw said was a nightmare to do so. So if you're wondering why the game was limited, maybe consoles were to blame for this in a way. Orsino wasn't meant to be a boss battle near the end of the game, but BioWare felt the game needed another boss battle for that extra oomph factor, and thus Orsino transforms into an abomination. However, it went very poorly with fans, as many felt Orsino resulting to blood magic betrayed his character, and it was even worse for people who sided with the mages too. I personally didn't mind. I enjoy killing monsters regardless. All of the changes and cuts and setbacks that I've stated about Dragon Age 2's insane development led to another unfortunate result for BioWare, and that was its user score on Metacritic. While the game sports a respectable 82 on Metacritic, the fans retaliated with all its changes by scoring the game a 4.6 on the user score, which BioWare didn't anticipate. Apparently, many of the developers on 2 were taken aback by the reaction to the game. I mean, I don't think it's better than Origins either, but 4.6? Come on guys, the game is like a 7 at least. Disappointingly, the game lacked any Origins or steady pacing and was instead replaced with a very fast opening because BioWare claimed, due to their data from Origins, many players gave up playing Origins due to the vast amounts of dialogue and lack of action from the get-go. So if you're mad Dragon Age 2 wasn't methodical and had more in-depth conversations, again, it was simply changed because BioWare tried to appease the fans' complaints, which led to mixed results, of course. And finally, here's a fact about Dragon Age 2 and, well, me. Dragon Age 2 was somewhat of a disappointment on launch for me, but I still enjoyed the game regardless. My biggest complaints were the lack of visual changes to the world over its decade-long narrative, and I disliked how many basic, boring, robe-like equipment was available for mages, which is what I played, as it made Hawk look like he was wearing a Snuggie the entire game, and I forced myself to only wear cool-looking clothing because I refused to look lame in a video game. So I made the game harder on myself by wearing weaker equipment so I didn't look like an idiot the whole game. The game was obtuse, for sure, but I did find the companions interesting, the Kunari redesigns were great, and I loved the change to action combat, which I'm sure many don't, but whatever. Nevertheless, Dragon Age 2 stands as an imperfect, rushed experience, all due to EA's corporate wants for something to please their investors. If Dragon Age 2 was given ample amounts of development like the original, we could have had another masterpiece on our hands. But as it stands, Dragon Age 2 is still a great game I enjoyed, and a story fitting to be in the pantheon of the Dragon Age mythos. Well guys, that's the video on Dragon Age 2. Inquisition is next. Please like, subscribe, all the things the algorithm loves. It gives my life meaning. Thanks to all my patrons, and I'm Endymion. I'll see you in the next one.